Today on Comm Talk, we're going to be talking about 2 reasons why people seem to leave ministry and they're kind of bleeding over and it shouldn't happen.
Okay, what is happening here?
Where are we?
Glix, give us a situation report.
Currently, we are on the planet Geekery. Be warned, our impossibility drive may cause distortions as we traverse this land. Impending impossibility engaging in 3,
Oh, gosh.
2,
Oh, dear.
1.
Hello, Devoted Geeks. Welcome to Comm Talk, the podcast extension of Geek Devotions. This is episode 86 and a half.
3/4?
3/4. This is my bride, Celeste.
Hello. 86 3/4.
Yes. So, guys, this past Sunday, we put out a podcast, episode 86, talking about people leaving ministry. And while it was a good podcast, we're happy with it. We realized that there are some things about it that weren't handled appropriately.
Yeah.
So what we've done is we've actually we've re-recorded portions of the podcast, and we're splicing some stuff from the original version, and we're just replacing the file on our Podbean host. So you're not going to be able to hear the original version.
So if you're listening after a certain point and you're hearing these words, you can no longer access the old one, the old version.
Exactly. But we want to talk about 2 reasons people quit ministry, quit serving, and quit doing certain things. And again, there seems to be a blend of these 2 reasons. And we're approaching this from a place of love and concern for people because we've seen this happen many times with many different people.
Yeah.
And we want to kind of address this and kind of help maybe encourage some people, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So the first thing we want to bring up is one of the reasons why a lot of people, they burn out. And again, this is ministry. This is content creators like you and I, or ministry also, content creators, but is mental health.
Yeah.
Like there are people who just struggle and deal with mental health issues.
And even people who don't struggle with it like you typically would think, just people who maybe are what in certain spaces is called neurotypical. They just aren't taking care of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's a struggle. As content creators, we're also always hustling to create something new, to do something next. And that gets on people. You have anxiety, you have depression, you have just a plethora of things that can come about in ministry and as podcasters, YouTubers, etc. And in the original version of this, we brought up some great points, and I want to go ahead and just real quick cut over to our original conversation.
Again, recently, I have a friend. I'm an acquaintance with a friend. That's the most stupid sentence ever. I have a friend who also has a podcast, who has also been podcasting for a very long time, and he has decided to end his podcast. Now, a little bit of a different situation. He was one singular person talking about geeky things. The only person on his podcast. Occasionally he would have a guest, but it got to be too much for him. And he goes, I love it and I would love to continue it, but it's just not good for my mental health. Completely understandable.
Absolutely.
Like, totally get that. And I told him that. I was like, I'm so proud of you for understanding where the boundaries lies of I love something, but it's not good for me.
Right.
So that's why I have the second story, because I don't want anyone to think that we're saying you should sacrifice your mental health or your physical health or any part of you.
Right.
For what you do.
Right. And to be honest, guys, this is a running conversation with all content creators that are on the internet. I remember a couple years ago there was a big run of YouTubers.
Yeah.
Who were like, I'm burnt out. I'm creating content every day and I just can't handle anymore. Guys, Celeste and I get the grind, the hustle. We've been creating content literally nonstop.
Yeah.
For
almost 5 years.
Almost 5 years. We took a small break for the first time ever this past season.
And you know what? That was great for us. It did hurt the channel because the way we did it, we should have just pre-recorded new episodes. But it was still good for us.
Yes. All right, so we're back from that, back to present day. This is going to be an interesting podcast.
Is this the real life or is this fantasy?
Exactly. So, in that, we talked about how we ourselves we found a point where we had to take a break.
Yeah.
We had to stop and kind of reposition ourselves, right?
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
that was needed, and I feel like that's an encouragement to everyone is when you're dealing with this stuff, you've got to take a break.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're, just on top of things. You've got to stop.
Even if it's just for a weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's like maybe you're like, I'm just kind of stressed and I'm not to the point of needing a 3-month sabbatical. Maybe I just need a weekend to not do anything.
Mm-hmm. Decompress. And we
Yeah.
talked about that before on the show before.
We have.
But that's just such a needed thing nowadays. And, I was talking with our friend Josh and over at Victims and Villains, and he deals with all kinds of individuals on a regular basis.
Yeah, he does.
And he and I have regularly talked about the need for people to be able to disconnect at times from certain life issues and then take a next step forward in some fashion.
Yeah.
And I'm in awe of Josh because he's in such with the nature of Victims and Villains, he's in such a, he's in a darker world than most of us.
Yeah, he is.
He deals with people, man, they're just struggling. And which is why he does what he does. He's, they're working to get mental health resources into schools and other places and whatnot. Now, moving forward, the second half of this conversation is people who, the blending of things, why people kind of, they stop podcasting, they stop doing YouTube videos, they stop doing ministry, is some people, and we're kind of passionate about this because we've seen people with this mindset. They have a mindset that they're no longer a voice, but now they're just an echo. They're in this big old echo chamber, and they're worried that their voice doesn't actually matter anymore.
Which is so, I think the reason we're so passionate about it is because it's so sad to think that there are people out there who think that their voices aren't needed, aren't necessary, when in reality, God created them with the purpose of sharing their voice.
Exactly. It's almost like when the person gets to that point of like, well, I'm not the only person here anymore. I'm not the only person doing this. And you start to look at everyone else around you. You begin to question your identity as a son or a daughter of God. And in our original version of this podcast, again, we had some really good thoughts. I want to play those for you guys right now.
Just because you're not the only one doesn't mean that your voice is not valid. It's not heard. It's not important. I put in my comments, I was like, please don't think that just because you're not the only ones, that there's not people that you are reaching that no one else will.
Right.
There's people that Dallas and I can't get to. There's people who would think we are absolutely nuts and wouldn't like us.
Absolutely. We saw that today.
We did.
We were streaming for our friends over at Victims of Villains today, and they're doing a 24-hour stream where there's just being there to let people know they're loved, they're cared for. And there were people who were active who just kind of ghosted because we weren't their cup of tea.
Right.
And that is okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to offend us because honestly, we have people that we listen to because we like them. We like what they stand for. We like what they say. Even if we don't agree with them all the way, we'll still listen to them. We'll still listen to their podcasts, listen to their stuff, support them. But it's just the idea that because you're not by yourself means there's no longer a need. Maybe that's how I should phrase it. It's not how they phrased it, but that's the better way to phrase it. The fact that just because I'm not the only one, there's other people meeting the need. I mean, we could have easily, 2 years ago, we went to SquadCon, and got to hang out with Susie and God Squad Church. And oh my gosh, those guys are doing phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
And they're rocking it out. And Susie's just hinted at that he's got another sponsorship that's going to change the game for him. And he's out there and he's doing stuff. And you and I could have easily gone, oh, wow, he's doing so great. We should stop and let him do what he does.
Not just even that. We've run into people such as Geeks Under Grace.
Oh, yeah.
Christian Geek Central, Love Thy Nerd, all these great ministries doing fantastic, phenomenal things.
Yeah.
That we could have been like, oh, I guess we better give up. Like Love Thy Nerd.
Oh my gosh. Love Thy Nerd does things that we want to do.
They're really hitting that vein that we want to do some stuff in. And Love Thy Nerd, if you're listening to us, we love you guys. We love what you guys are doing and everything. Geeks Under Grace, I know we got a couple of those guys who listen to our podcast. We love you guys so much. There's so many people out there doing some phenomenal things. And I think the difference is that you and I, we look at them and we're not going, oh, I guess we're not the only ones here anymore. Which, to be honest, when we started Geek Devotions, there wasn't a lot of us out there doing what we do.
Susie was around, but we didn't know about him yet.
Yeah. But
Geeks Under Grace was around.
Right.
And we found them and went, notice us.
Mm-hmm. But... Okay, and we're back. Now, like we were saying, we could have given up. We went to Squad Con, we saw all these things, and we could have completely and utterly just stopped because of everything that we saw happening.
Mm-hmm.
People doing some fantastic and amazing things. But we didn't. We held on. And some of it was our grounding in the scriptures, right?
Yeah.
So
some of it was Susie was super encouraging as well.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk about some scriptures and even some of that encouraging mindset that we saw taking place.
Yeah.
Welcome to Victims and Villains. This is the channel where we talk nerd, we talk hope, and we speak nothing else. I'm your host, Captain Nostalgia, and I'm so glad that you are here to join us.
Victims and Villains is a podcast and YouTube channel that marries pop culture and suicide prevention, producing content with the intent to let people know that there is hope and that there is a better way, and that each and every listener has value and worth.
Listen to Victims and Villains on your favorite podcast catcher or on YouTube by searching for Victims and Villains. Also, check out their website, victimsandvillains.net.
All right, welcome back from our break. Like we said before, Victims and Villains is a fantastic organization. Love them so much. I want to encourage you guys to please check out Victims and Villains, victimsandvillains.net. They're getting their Twitch channel up and running, so if you're into streaming, they're getting that up and running. But please go check out these guys because we absolutely love them. Now, that being said,
They're so sweet.
they are very sweet. Celeste, you had some scriptures you wanted to share, because these are some things that helped encourage us, and we think they might help other people dealing with this mindset of possibly I'm no longer a voice. I'm just an echo. I'm just somebody who is just out here, and what I'm having to say doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. So I was having to look that up real quick. So the first one is Psalms 138:8. It says, "The Lord will fulfill his purpose for me. Your steadfast love, O Lord, endures forever. Do not forsake the word of your hands." Which is fantastic to me because that one's not necessarily talking about us giving up, but it's talking about the fact that God doesn't give up on us. We are works in progress. We are constantly having to change and adjust and learn different things and go through different things. That's why, we can look at the same verse in the Bible years apart and get something different. It's not that the scriptures changed.
Right.
It's that we've changed. Oh.
That's so true.
So the next one is Romans 16:19. It says, "For your obedience is known to all, so that I rejoice over you. But I want you to be wise as to what is good and innocent as to what is evil." And so I love this one because it's talking about the people who are faithful. Your obedience is known to all.
Right.
You're faithful, even if you're not getting the applause and the the views and the clicks and the, the pats on the back, which are all valid things, are all things that we should want as content creators. We want people to see our stuff. We want people to like it because that tells us that we're not just shouting out into the void. But at the same time, when that becomes your worth, that's an issue.
It is.
When the pats on the back of, hey, that was a really great podcast, become what you seek, that becomes a problem.
And that's it's a sad place to be.
It is.
When I feel like a lot of content creators, they get out there on the front end and they're energetic and they're passionate about doing it because they just know that's what God wants. But sometimes down the road, some people, content creators, pastors, ministry leaders, we fall in this pit of like, oh, but we've gotten used to the applause. And we need to realize that, that's not what we do, why we're doing it. And at the same time, we need to know that when maybe there's not somebody there, but our character keeps us going, like, because we have good character, we're still doing it. It's being seen.
Yeah.
Like God sees it. He sees your faithfulness.
Like great example of someone who's faithful in our personal life is, we have an older-ish gentleman who, he's a grandpa. I can say older. He cleans our church. Like, nobody knows except for the staff or people who happen to walk up when he's mopping. But he is there every Saturday cleaning, and he cleans after service now with COVID.
Right.
Because there's certain restrictions that we have to adhere to. And so he's taken his, hey, I'm just going to mop the church and taking it to the next level. But he's still doing it. He's still doing it with joy. He's still taking pride in doing it well.
Right. Absolutely.
The next one and the last one is, as for you, brothers, do not grow weary in doing good. And that one's kind of, I think, really sums up everything. Like, we shouldn't get weary in doing good things. Now, there is a line, like, if you need to stop. If your mental health is not handling it, then drop it.
Right. Absolutely.
Like, or if, something in your life is suffering, doesn't even have to be mental health. If you're dropping other responsibilities for a ministry, there's a trope in the church that sadly is a trope because of reasons of pastors' kids not doing well.
Okay.
And because their fathers or mothers, their parents, don't take into account what they need. They go, they'll be fine. And they go on. Now, there is, to an extent, a level of, they'll be okay. But at the same time, being attentive to your children's needs is important. I think our pastor did a pretty good job of that, just from his kids.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
They're both serving the Lord still.
Right.
And they're both awesome young women.
They are. So last time we talked about this, we brought up some other interesting aspects about this whole idea of not growing weary and whatnot. So I want to go ahead and play that for you guys of what we said last time. And growing weary, it happens. But I think if we make steps to have people to help you out, maybe plan some stuff out. Recently, I sat through some courses online, but for content creators, and talked about how plan, like, for the love of God, just sit there and plan some stuff out, and don't just make a plan, execute the plan. Don't be like the dude from Arrow. Make a plan, execute the plan, forget the plan.
No, it was make a plan, execute the plan, throw the plan out the window.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you have to do that sometimes.
Sometimes you have to throw the plan out the window.
But plan some stuff out. Pace yourself. Understand. Like you and I, we've had times where we're like, we are doing too much, and we've had to pump the brakes. We've had to call some stuff and call an audible, and thankfully the people we've had to call audible with, sometimes they're understanding, and they're like, hey, I get it. And we appreciate it so much because it has. I mean, the last year and a half, we've talked about this before, has been wild for us here at Geek Devotions. And, I'm so thankful for what we have. We have for the podcast team, we have
a team now,
right?
Which, God, that's such a blessing.
It is to have people help create the content that we're doing. We got John and Steven doing rhythmic
Primitive
rhythm machine, and they do a great job. I can't wait to hear the lost episode they have for us.
I know, me too. I'm so excited about that one.
Branson's doing these great reviews on family friendly comics for us, and that's putting out regular content. It's not just to put stuff out there.
Yeah,
like,
but they're meeting a need.
Yeah,
like our podcast, just us, and then the away teams, as we like to call them, they're meeting needs. We do not know enough about music and Christian music specifically to do podcasts on it. We can hold conversations. You and I love music.
Yeah,
but we don't know enough to be authoritative in it. John's in a band. Steve McDonald has been around since Jesus was playing a guitar. Not that he's old, just that he's been doing it that long. Sorry, Steve, I love you.
For those listening, there is no biblical references to Jesus holding a guitar.
But he said something the other day in another chat I'm in with him about being a roadie for a band. And I'm like, dear Lord, you've done everything.
He has. Steve's done everything.
Like, I am just in awe of it. So there's some expertise that they bring to the table in music. And we realized that was an area we wanted to hit. And so they're doing that for us.
Well, they help fulfill some of the stuff that when we first birthed Geek Devotions.
Yeah.
And that was a weird of saying that. We had hopes and plans of doing reviews.
Yeah.
Of getting stuff out. Because people have questions.
Yeah.
And we try to help as much as we can. We can't all the time.
Yeah.
So, these guys have helped to do that for us. And again, we got so much going on.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
We Geek Devotion is such a scatter. It's not like we're just focused on one thing.
Yeah,
it's like
we do a lot.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it's easier, but when you're focused on just one area, it's a little easier to do content because you're like, all right, we know we got this, and this. Example,
exactly.
Our friend over at Monster Island Film Vault.
Yeah.
Nathan, fantastic individual, does some amazing podcasts. To be honest, it should be simple because it's just one genre.
Yeah.
But he puts so much into those episodes. That's where I'm trying to say, I don't want to belittle him. He puts so much work into his podcast.
Oh, yeah, he does.
With information and all this other stuff. And
creativity.
Oh my God, he's creating a whole show.
He's creating a whole world.
And now he's got people, did you hear this? He's got people creating characters for his show on Twitter.
Yes, I think I knew about that.
There's now randomly on the internet, there's now a lawyer from the Monster Island Film Vault.
Oh my gosh, that's funny. I know that because I voice a character on his show. And when he was approaching me about it, I went, oh, I can't handle another Twitter. Like, I cannot add anything else. And he goes, no. I just need you to voice. And I go, that I can do. Give me enough warning. We can work this out.
Right.
So,
but anyways, that being said, when you, again, he does have a pretty simple, because like this year, it's the year of Gamera. And so he's
still
doing
don't understand the fascination with the turtle.
So he's just doing all Gamera movies all year long. We at Geek Devotions, though, because our genres are so out there, like we got so many things we're covering.
Yeah.
We're kind of like a big umbrella. We needed people who could help us and step and go, hey, all right, I can handle the music stuff. I can handle that. And they're doing amazing jobs helping us with this stuff.
Well, and it's like we're big into comic books, but we are not parents. And so while we have a general idea of what, might be okay for families, for kids, Branson brings a whole new perspective to it because he's a dad.
Exactly.
As he's reading this, he's reading these comics, screening them to make sure they're okay for his kids to read, for him to read to his kids.
Right.
So he's already doing it. He just now comes and records for us.
All right, and we're back. So, like we said, we've said this several times in the podcast. We there was a season where we had to take a break, and then there have been several times that we've had to take breaks for different reasons.
Yeah.
So we don't grow weary in doing what God's called us to do. And you brought up a great point. Like, it's when we are in the midst of this, if we need to, please do.
Yeah,
It's so
absolutely.
important for
Please
us.
take a break if you need to. Even if you need to stop altogether, if that's what God's telling you, do it.
And I think that's the key. If God is telling you to do it.
Yeah.
If God said stop. And that's the problem I'm running into with some people is they just stop and they go, well, God wants me to stop. Did God say that?
Yeah.
Or are you saying that because of and you said it great last time, which was the fear and the anxiety has stripped in and caused the lie to go, God must want me to stop. Hard times, struggling does not equal God saying it's time for you to stop.
Exactly. Because he never promised that it would be rainbows and unicorns.
Exactly. We've talked about this several times. We've done devotions over this. One of the most misquoted scriptures out there is the whole, I know the plans to prosper you. Or our plans to prosper you, all that kind of stuff. People go, oh, it's going to be great. No, that was going into captivity.
Yeah.
So
they were being promised that they would go into captivity and die in captivity, but their grandchildren would get out.
Exactly. So hard times do not equal God saying you should stop.
Yeah.
If anything, hard times say we should press forward. Now, when God says stop, stop.
Because we've seen the opposite of that when God is very clearly telling someone to stop and they're not.
Exactly.
And it gets bad.
Exactly. Now, again, if it's a mental thing, like you needed to take a mental break, please do that. You need to do that for yourself. And you got to stop for a moment and go, okay, let me breathe. But when you've gotten that healing, when you've gone through that season of healing, get back in there unless the Lord has told you it's time to move on. Because to be honest, we have an opportunity to choose how we see the situations we're in. We have there are two mindsets to looking at things, and I want to cut to what we said last time about how we have the opportunity to see when we see other people doing what we feel like we're called to do. There's a way that you can see it. So let me cut to that. Well, I do want to bring up this then, because I started off in the first segment of the show talking about when we first started, we saw all these other people doing stuff.
Yeah.
And it was super easy for us to go, oh, okay, well, I guess we're not needed, and walk away.
Yeah.
And this is my encouragement for everyone who's listening right now, for people who you're involved in a form of ministry of some sort. Maybe it's a podcast. Maybe it's you do a YouTube show. Maybe you've started a clothing ministry at your church, or maybe you're cooking food for families in your neighborhood. Whatever it is that you're part of, and you're like, God has put this in me. This is something that God has gone, I need to do this. And you get out there and you see people doing it. You absolutely have the option to go, oh, well, I guess I'm not needed anymore.
Yeah.
Or you have the option to go, man, this is so awesome. The other people have caught the vision that I have. Some other people have caught the desire, and this is a God thing that's taking place. I'm inspired to do more. I'm encouraged to go, oh man, that's a great idea. Let me incorporate that into my thing. Yeah. Or maybe you go, hey, how can I help you? Because this is so cool.
Absolutely.
I got this right here. How can I partner with you over here?
Exactly.
And then do more, do better. Geek Devotions, we've been doing that since day one of going, we're so inspired. Retro Rewind. Half the reason we do what we do with our podcast, but I just realized we don't have Glicks on this podcast right now.
I'm here. I am currently working on repairing the docking bays for the away teams. You two can continue to ramble on.
Oh, there she is. Fine.
Hi, Glicks.
So, but part of the reason why we do what we do here on the show, or even our Twitch streams, is because Francisco inspires us.
Yeah. And he also gives us feedback, and we give him feedback. He'll go, hey, I really liked this. This worked really well. Or, hey, that didn't work so well, but have you thought about trying this?
Exactly. And so him and Paul just inspire us
Oh yeah.
tremendously. And then you see, well, like Susie, he inspires me all the time.
So hype.
Just the energy he brings, I'm like, I need to harness some of that for what I do because I understand the science behind what he does.
Yeah.
You know, and just the heart for people and establishing certain things. We see these other ministries doing this. We have the ability, yes, to go, oh,
Right.
I guess we can stop now. There's no reason for us to be here, or where we become inspired and we do more and we do better than we did before.
So great example of that is, and I don't know if this is still a thing since cons are not as big of a deal right now, but a while back, Love Thy Nerd you could sign up for missions trips and you would go to a con with Love Thy Nerd and be the people who walk around and talk to people.
That's awesome.
Like, you could literally, like, some churches go to other countries, you could literally go to a con with them. They provide all the stuff and do it. I actually had thought about us maybe doing that just to kind of see what they do, learn from them.
Right, because that's one of our,
that's something we want to do.
like from day one of Geek Devotions, that was on the list of things that we want to do.
Haven't achieved it yet other than going to GeekCon. But yeah, that's one of the things we want to do. And so that's a long-term goal. Hopefully closer. Hopefully closer than it was almost 5 years ago. But it's just, if you don't feel called to do it, you're just doing it because you see a need and you see other people doing it, see if you can help those people. Maybe they need you to be a Patreon supporter. Maybe they need you to be the person who gives them feedback and reviews.
Yeah.
Maybe they need you to be a person who writes devotions so that they have them in their back pocket when they're ready.
Yeah, exactly. And so, again, don't become discouraged because you see people doing the stuff that you want to do or are doing.
Yeah.
Again, there's so many great people out there that have inspired Celeste and I. Nerd Chapel.
Oh yeah. You know what? I think Nerd Chapel was the ones who were doing the
Love That
missions
Nerd
trip.
also does that also.
Oh, okay.
But Nerd Chapel, Faith and Fandom, done by Hector, Costumers for Christ.
Yeah.
Man, there's just so many people I can name, and I would forget every one of them. So many of them also, but they've inspired me. They inspire Geek Devotions.
Yeah.
I took a course. I'm taking this course this past week on content creation, and they say that one of the things you should do is backwards engineer things.
Yeah.
Watch somebody who's in your niche, who's doing what you're doing, and backward engineer what they do, and see how you can grow. Not that you're copying them,
Yeah.
but you're trying to understand the process so you can do it also or do something better.
Yeah, exactly. It's I periodically jump into Susie's streams just because I love the dude and want to encourage him. But I hopped in one morning and he had something he was doing, and I was like, "Oh, dude, that's awesome. Would you mind if Geek Devotion stole that?" And he goes, "No, absolutely, do it, make it better." So not because I personally would always look at people and go, "Oh, I don't want to copy them. I don't want them to think I'm stealing from them." But they're doing it. They're inspiring when they're doing it.
Right. Absolutely. All right, and we're back from that. And I hope that was encouraging to you guys about the whole aspect that you have a choice to see this as either, yeah, all right, maybe it's time for me to stop, or, man, they're doing so great. How can I learn from them? Or, man, how can I partner with them so we can do more? And one of the things that we talked about last time, Celeste, dealing with this whole voice thing, is that these people, every person, we mentioned this a couple times already today, we were created to have a voice.
Yeah.
And to be a voice to a specific community.
Absolutely.
You are a voice to a community that nobody else can reach.
Right.
And so for you to go, I'm not the only person in this space anymore, that may be the case.
But maybe you could team up and do it together.
Exactly. Or maybe it's just because there's certain ways that people say things that, it's just different.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've said this before. We're not in competition with other people.
Gosh, no.
And giving up just because you're not the only person. I was talking with our pastor about this earlier today. And he goes, the problem is some people with that mindset, if we were to carry that over to everything else,
Mm-hmm.
we'd only have 1 or 2 pastors
Oh, true.
in a city, basically. I mean, we're all doing the same thing, aren't we? We're all preaching the gospel. I remember talking to a gentleman. He was an atheist and nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
We're friendly towards each other, and he's a little antagonistic. And he goes, you know, there's 20,000 churches here. You're all fighting over the same, you know, individuals moving from church to church. It's like, no, that's not how it should be. That does happen sometimes.
Yeah, it
What it
does.
should be is that we're like, man, I'm reaching people in my community, and I want to reach people in my community who don't know Jesus.
Yeah.
And so when we have all these communities of individuals, yes, you know, Geeks Under Grace, man, they're hitting a community and they're doing fantastic.
They're doing so good.
Even that they're slandering King Kong or Godzilla in their podcast. You know, you got Love Thy Nerd, and they're doing amazing things. You have Hector over at Faith and Fandom. You have Nerd Chapel. You have just a plethora of groups that are out there, but they're all reaching different demographics. They're all reaching different people.
And they're all, even if they're like, they cross over, because like Love Thy Nerd and Nerd Chapel do similar things. They both go into the con space.
And so does Faith and Fandom.
And oh yeah, he does too. But they all go into the con space and they reach people, but they do it with their own flavor. They do it with their own flair. And so there's people who will be more pulled to Nerd Chapel than they would Love Thy Nerd.
Exactly.
There's people who would be more pulled to Hector because he's dressed up as fat.
Exactly. You need to. That's a character from a show, guys.
Yeah, it's a anime character that Hector cosplays as. Awesomely, I must add.
So, but the point is, these guys are all doing some stuff, and sometimes there's crossover, there's blending.
Yeah.
But that's okay because they still have people they reach, they have stuff they're doing, and we're not in competition with each other. It's one gospel. They're not our people. And I said this last time. I'm going to put it here right now. It's, you know, as a pastor, and some people they forget I'm a pastor, and I've pastored students, I've pastored kids. I have now as the media pastor, I pastor our online community. They're not my people. I'm in community with them. I love them. My lead pastor, and this is the mindset of our church from our church. He's not their shepherd. You know, they're not his. He doesn't own them. And I would challenge any pastor to change his mindset. These are not your people. They are your friends. They are your family. They are sheep that you lead, yes, but you are just as much a sheep as them. Stop acting like that's all yours.
Yeah.
You know, because when we get that mindset, and this is the I'm getting hot. When we get that mindset that we own these people, that I had to have this demographic or it's nothing, you have ceased to be a voice. You have become an echo.
Yeah.
And it's not even a good echo. You're just an echo of what you used to be.
Carbon copy of a carbon copy.
That was hardly copied from a carbon copy.
Yep.
If he hears this line, let's say that I'm going to, in the messages, I'm going to trip out.
I don't think Curvin listens to our podcast.
Curvin, we love you.
Curvin's a very busy man. I don't think he listens to our podcast.
So, but again, like I was saying, the quickest way for a person to become an echo is to feel like that they're no longer, or get to the point where they're no longer serving God, but they're serving themselves within everything else. And that sounds harsh.
It does.
Because not everyone's, and there's some people that's what they feel like they're no longer there, and it's not that. There's a variety of reasons. But that's one of the reasons why that happens for some people.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a myriad of reasons that any of these things could happen.
There's some people, it's the anxiety, it's the fear, it's the doubt, and they haven't taken care of that. They don't have people in their lives to meet with, to help them go through some stuff, to take a break and to encourage them. For some people, it's that there's a fear that if they're not doing something, then they must be. That's another thing. Again, there's just some, we could talk about this for multiple podcasts.
We could.
There's the fear that, well, if I'm not, then am I really fulfilling what God has for me? Am I failing God? And I say, no. What is God saying? Ask God, speak to God, pray. What does he say about your situation? I said this last time. One of the things that 2020 has taught me is that pastors and ministry leaders need to be careful about saying, well, God says this. Does God really say that? Or are you speaking from, well, I just like this. Or I'm feeling this way today.
Yeah.
I'm not saying God doesn't move through these things.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we need to be careful as Christians to say, thus saith the Lord.
Yeah.
Because if the Lord doesn't thus saith, biblically, if you're declaring yourself to be a prophet, you get stoned.
That's not good. Bad business, guys.
Exactly. So what is the Lord saying to you guys listening right now? What is God actually saying in the situation that you're in? Does he say continue? Does he say, hey, keep moving forward? Are you dealing with these things with anxiety, with the stress, with fear and doubt? And you need healing? Get the healing.
Yeah. Reach out.
Talk to somebody.
Tell somebody what's happening. You don't have to, and this is something else that I've seen and I wish people wouldn't do, is when they're struggling, they reach out and tell their whole community. And that's not helpful. It feels helpful in the moment because everybody's, it's okay. You're doing great. Like you get that instant feedback, but it doesn't actually heal the problem. You've just slapped a piece of duct tape over the cut. Not even a Band-Aid. It's duct tape.
Right.
And when what you need to do is go to somebody, and they could be in your community, but one or two people, and go, hey, I'm struggling with this. Can you pray for me? Can you help me? Can you hold me accountable to make sure that it's what's going on with this? Hey, I really feel like I need to not do this anymore. Will you pray and make sure that I'm hearing the Lord on this? Like, get somebody else in your life.
Exactly.
But not the masses.
Exactly. So there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you guys. What's your feedback, guys? Has this encouraged you? Has this challenged you? Do you feel like we're just left field?
We might be left field.
Maybe we're just making this all up.
It's all a dream.
Let us know.
Where's the kid?
Reach out to us on any of our social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We want to hear from you guys, legitimately. And we want to do life with you. If you're one of those individuals, maybe you're going through this stuff, reach out.
Yeah.
We want to pray with you. We want to encourage you because we genuinely love you.
Yeah.
We genuinely care about you. And not us. If not us, then somebody else. But get the help that you need.
Yeah.
To get through these issues. And again, if you get through these and God's saying, hey, no, it's time for you to go. It's time for you to move on. Do it.
Yeah.
I mean, bless the Lord. Go.
Yeah.
All right. I think we've said about as much as we can. Celeste, do you have anything you want to add?
No, no.
Okay.
I had a thought and then I was like, does that need to be said? And I went, no, it doesn't.
It doesn't need to be said. All right. That's fine. That's good. That sometimes, to be honest, that's one of the most biblical things you can do. Go, doesn't even be said, and move on.
That's another podcast, Alice.
Another podcast.
That is another podcast.
We don't need this to be an hour-long podcast. All right. So,
no.
Celeste, land this plane.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to Comm Talk today. If you have loved this episode, head on over to Apple Podcasts to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It is very much appreciated. So until next time, stay devoted.
Peace and love.